I first found out that I was pregnant with my son on my birthday in late September of 2014. I had my first trip to the emergency room in late November. I woke up bleeding and was rushed to the emergency room where they found no trace of the complications and told me it was something minor probably that could reoccur. 3 weeks later, on December 6th, I woke up in the worst pain I've ever felt in my life and knew that this wasn't that same complication again, and went back to the emergency room where they immediately did a bedside ultrasound and told me that my water had broken and that I would likely start labor at any time. I was only a couple days short of 16 weeks pregnant at this time, so I knew that I would lose the baby. The on-call doctor came in and began discussing my options with me for terminating the pregnancy. If I were to continue, I was putting myself at great risk for infection, so they offered to terminate in a sterile environment in the hospital where I didn't have to see or do anything and would be a much healthier option. Or he gave me the option to go home and leave it in God's hands, and I would likely miscarry within 24 hours. I knew at that point that it was no one's decision other than God's to stop a beating heart. So as long as there continued to be a heartbeat, I would continue on with this pregnancy, no matter what the risk to me was at this point. I knew at that time that it was only God's place to stop a beating heart, that I couldn't make that decision to do anything at that point, that as long as they found a heartbeat, that I would continue on. I went to a doctor's appointment 2 days later where they expected to either terminate at that point or have it already happened on its own, and there was still a heartbeat again. And for weeks and weeks this went on where every time they would check me there was still a heartbeat, and ultrasounds would show that the baby was growing right on track. I shared my story with my story group that I was meeting with at the time, who all prayed very hard with me and often. And Pastor Carey let me know about going to pray with the elders, which was an amazing experience. I walked into a room of grown men who I had just met for the first time, who were all praying and weeping for my unborn child, and it was a very powerful experience. I came back several months later. The pregnancy continued, and I was actually scheduled to be admitted on a Friday to the hospital in Orlando for them to try to extend my pregnancy another 6 weeks to give my baby the best chance of survival. And so that Wednesday night I came and prayed with the elders one last time. And the next day God had something else in store. I actually went to the hospital to be treated for minor sickness and ended up being evac'd to Winnie Palmer Hospital in Orlando, where I delivered my son at 27 weeks. He did have some of the life-threatening conditions that they mentioned that he may have, but the doctors there were able to work quickly and skillfully to save his life that day. Days later, his neonatologist told me that he had done everything in his power, medically possible at that time, to save him, and that it took some help from up above for my son to have survived what he had gone through. I know that it's God's plan that my son is here, that he made it, and he had something special in store for him. He helped him to overcome any challenge that he came against, and continues to help him thrive and grow to be a healthy baby boy that he is today.